What's up, guys? Welcome to the famed podcast, Historical Hilarity. Today we're going to be comparing and contrasting a fascist speech to a civil rights speech. The examples we are going to be using today are well known. We'll be gonna using "I Have a Dream" speech from Martin Luther King Jr. and Oswald Mosley's Britain First nationalistic speech.
My name is Mustafa, and your name is?
William.
And this is our podcast. I'd just like to thank everyone for hitting 0 listeners last month. I really just appreciate you guys and everything. Anyways,
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank
just
you,
some
Mustafa.
some background information. As you might already know, Martin Luther King Jr. actually is a famous civil rights activist from I believe the 1960s, and his main cause was reaching equality for Black people and white people in America. And we're using his well-known, of course, as William said, "I Have a Dream" speech. As you might not know, Oswald Mosley is a British fascist from the 1930s who started his own political movement called the British Union of Fascists, which aimed to put which was a nationalist fascist group that aimed to put Britain as like the top priority in their politics. He's often known as Hitler's man in Britain, and is known for being very racist and ultra-nationalist. So first, we're going to be talking about the things that are similar. Oh, actually, first, if you haven't read or listened to both speeches, greatly recommend that you go listen to them. It's actually quite interesting, both of them. So moving on, we're going to be moving on to the similarities between the uh, the two speeches. So you take over now, Wayne.
Oh yeah. The first point. In both speeches, we see how rhetorical appeals are being used. First of all, in the Martin Luther King speech, there is an appeal to justice and equality, of course, and this can be seen where Martin Luther King mentions, "I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out of the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal." While in Mosley's speech, we find an appeal to nationalism and the idea of British superiority to other nations. In the Mosley speech, we see how there is a constant repetition of Britain first, Britain first, Britain first. We say Britain first because we put the interest of the British people above all others. This is to highlight the nature of both speeches and their, let's say, purpose. So yeah, Mustafa, the next similarity in the two is, of course, the use of repetition. As I mentioned it before, it is for emphasis and to enhance the meaning of their points. In Mosley's speech, the repetition, as mentioned before, is of course Britain first, Britain first, Britain first. While in Martin Luther King's speech, we have "I have a dream that one day," "I have a dream that one day," and so on, various times, which highlights what Martin Luther King wanted. It highlights what Martin Luther King envisioned in the future of America.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I say something?
Absolutely. Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. So here you can see, of course, like very crucial to the writing of effective speeches is use of literary devices such as repetition. Here, like a quick difference, for example, in this similarity, it's kind of ironic, is that like Mosley's way of saying repetition is like Britain first, Britain first, Britain first. It's a very harsh and very like clear message. Uh,
Strong, determined,
yeah,
yes.
very strong, and of course it's very nationalist compared to Martin Luther King's speech, which is more like emotional, which is like I have a dream. Like of course, dream being a very emotionally loaded word. Is I have a dream that one day, I have a dream that one day, I have a dream that one day. It brings lots of emotion and intrigues the listener into their speech. Anyway, continue, William, please.
So yeah, the next similarity is it's gonna be, of course, appeal to emotion. Both speeches are want to evoke strong emotions in their listeners, even though they want to evoke emotions for different things. So, for example, for in the Mosley speech, the speech is aimed to stoke feelings of national pride, of nationalism, and fear of outsiders. An example is when Mosley says, "We say Britain first because we want to stop the flood of alien immigration." So here there's an appeal to fear, to horror, where he is trying to appeal to the British people to be scared, to protect their own country from what's outside, which is seen as a threat. While for Martin Luther King, the speech actually wants to inspire hope and a sense of unity in the people, which they're all fighting for a common thing. They're fighting for equality, racial equality, social equality. In the Martin Luther King speech, an example can be seen. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So yeah, here Martin Luther King aimed to create a common sense of unity, to gather the people uh, to be with these ideas and his ideology of unity and shared heritage. So yeah, if you want to say anything, Mustafa.
No, I believe I have made a point. Like I just made a point that was very similar. So anyway,
Okay, okay,
moving on to the differences, the main differences between these speeches. First, we're going to go for the ideological and topical difference, which is the most basic one, of course.
of course, of course.
Uh, of course, the fascist speech promotes nationalism and exclusion. Very, very shocking. And Martin Luther King's speech advocates for civil rights and equality. As stated before, Mosley says, and quote, we want to stop the entry of new aliens to promote voluntary repatriation and to tighten our borders. While Martin Luther King says, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. Of course, Martin Luther is promoting unity, and Mosley is promoting, uh, you know,
Online racism, I would say.
cyberbullying. Anyways, one of the key differences, even though there's been similarities in terms of evoking emotion, the way that Mosley goes about doing that is much more aggressive and divisive. Again, by the name of the speech and the key repetition, Britain first, Britain first, Britain first. We must put our own people in first, our own people first in our own land. Compared to Martin Luther King's quote, I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. Of course, Mosley was shouting those lines while King was, just saying them in a manner that like truly inspired and got people to touch people's inner emotions. Moving on to another literary device, imagery. I noticed that particularly Mosley uses imagery of threat and fear. It's like floods of quote floods of immigration will bring a rise in crime, unemployment, and disease. Three very very dangerous and bad terms, often associated with very very bad times. While King brings imagery of hope and unity, where he says, "With this faith," another language, emotionally loaded word, "we'll be able to hew out the mountain of despair and a stone of hope." Like really bringing out like truly inspiring and like deep words that like make you imagine a better America, a better world, really, where there's more unity and brotherhood. Anyways, that concludes our comparing and contrasting for today. Again, thanks everyone for the 0 listeners on Spotify and the 1 listener on SoundCloud. Thanks, Mom, for listening on SoundCloud. And William, do you have anything to say before we wrap up this episode?
No, no, thank you for the invitation, of course, and I will be glad to join you back in these discussions.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. See you guys next
Bye
episode.
bye.